So what I want you to do is to get yourself either the mat that you're on, or you can see here I'm just rolling up this mat. And what you want to do is to put this mat onto something a little bit higher, so maybe a couple of foam pads, because we're coming for Setu Bandha. So we're coming for Setu Bandha. So when we come for Setu Bandha, we want to make it so it's quite active and quite worky. So we're going to put the support here like this, and then we're going to see that we place this on the top. So I've got the roll mat on top of a couple of foam pads. So then I'm going to see that I come into this action. So when I come into this action, I haven't got anything underneath my feet. I'm not going to have the legs level, but I want to see that the back is starting to work quite strongly. And the legs can be weighted down. See, it's almost like you have to scuff these heels away as you lift up and roll the whole of the upper body deeply, so that you're coming into this very open action. And be there, be aware of your breath, be aware of this space that you're creating from pushing those legs away and really getting the connection of this curving action of the back. There's quite a strong action. The legs are learning so much in this way. So see that the shoulders, outer shoulders are rolling down. Okay, so stay in that position for a moment or two. So we're just educating the body at the moment, finding the connection in the upper body. So we want to still maintain it for a few more moments. See that you start to scuff those feet again, all the way away from the body itself, and coil even more in those shoulders. Coil the upper body, keeping that action. Soft breath, soft inhalation and exhalation. So this upper chest action is really important, as well as feeling and sensing that length in the abdomen. Okay, and now releasing. Well done. Bend your knees and roll to your right side and just have a look at the screen. So we're coming into these frontal actions. So when you're in this position, you want to see that there is length in this sideways, what you've just experienced. So now you can use your feet to push yourself back, so you've still got that length, and you can use your hands to try and encourage not to just rest down onto the diaphragm. So you can use your hands to push up, you can use your legs to push away, and somewhere in the middle we can start to get this hinging action in the upper body. You've got to remember that back action that we've been talking about in Tadasana. You've got to see that this area becomes very, very passive. So you've got to try and let it go. If you're holding it and gripping it, you've got to let it go to the side. So the legs become weighted, more weighted. So we can lift and release, lift and release, and lift and release. So try not to grip the buttock. So this time I'm going to lift, I'm going to release the buttock, I'm going to become heavy, 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 and then I've got to see where is that Setu Bandha. I've got to open the Setu Bandha all along that spine. It's a very tricky action to come into Bhujangasana. My feet are slightly apart, I know. So when you're in this position, it's about weighting the lower body. You've got to weight the lower body down to go further in the action. and then releasing. So if you find this really tricky, it takes a little bit of time. You've got to take your concentration, your mind, your observations into the leg work, what we've been talking about, how we've been discussing this area. If you find it's difficult to settle, then of course this action is quite good because you can get this connection with the legs, rolling, opening, and then you can come up in this way only as a therapeutic way. It's not how you would do the classic pose. Those of you who find it difficult to get up, of course you can use a rolled mat underneath the pelvis. But I want you to understand these poses, that they are there to highlight the problems, not for you to think, oh great, I can do these poses. They're there to highlight difficulties so that you change the way you're doing things, you change some of the directions in the body. So come on, let's do once more. So we come into the action, we've got to see that the lower back is restful. And we know that if we reach away, we can lengthen. If we press into the hands, we can lengthen the diaphragm. And then we can come up. We know there's a small coil. All of you can manage that. Now, things get a bit heated because you start to push quicker than you release. So you've got to release again and go. And release again and go. And weight down with that lower body. Keep in this position. Keep that lower body weighted. And then come into the action. It's a spinal massage. You don't need anything else when you start to squeeze your body out in this way. Now, of course, those of you who are struggling with this and it's driving you bonkers, then you can put this around the feet, which will give you a little bit more support. Have it a little bit narrower than that. That can go around the feet. This is a good way of practicing. Or you can use this support underneath the pelvis. So when you come into the action, underneath the pelvis is quite a nice way of working. You can come up. So this helps you in this way. So these lower back bends, the ones which are prone, are really quite challenging. I think some of us feel that we can do the bigger ones a little bit better, but these are the ones which really need to have the work. So just have a look again, once more. This time we've got to see that we lift up, the legs are lifted, and again, it's exactly the same thing. We see, can we release? Instead of gripping in, you've got to release this thigh, these inner thighs have got to lift up and rotate this way, and then we come. It's the back that's stiff, not the body. So I can come forward, I can go back, I can come forward, I can go back. So this is the massage of the back. And this is where we understand how the back is so stiff and how it needs to be rinsed and squeezed, and all of this work needs to come. So come on, your turn. Now you've got to try and get those actions. Now if it's really a problem and we haven't quite got the actions in our bodies, then of course you can come into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana like this. You can come into it like this. But this time when we come to it, I want you to see, we're coming to it again. We've come to this several times, I know. But when we come to it again now, you've got to see what is it doing for your back. Even if you feel that the back is stiff, then we have to weight down a little bit more, maybe not come up so much. We have to be very honest with the practice and see that we rinse the body out in the back bends. So it's a challenging action. So challenging. All right, and now releasing completely. Just rest your forehead onto the wrists, the forearms. Just rest there for a moment. Just let the back just release, quieten down. Okay. All right, so we come for a little bit more back bending. All right, so I just want you to see this action. Now, I know not everybody's got a yoga chair, so we won't go through the chair for those kind of poses. You've got to see that you press down very strongly into your shins and this area opens. So you've got to lift out of the pelvis and you've got to get this rolling action. So you've got to lift thighs, but you've got to imagine that this is all connecting, all connecting. So ground down with the legs. Get that back nice and open. Then take the hands back. Now, you want to see that you get that opening in your back and lift up away from the sacral lumbar junction. So you want to lift up so strongly. Keeping that action. Moving those outer hips forward as if they're pushing forward. Not the belly, not the legs, just the hips. So you've got to really stabilize that leg so you don't thrust your legs forward, but you're just trying to get that opening again. And then see, can you lift your chest? Can you get that opening? Can you get that connection? So it's quite a strong action, but the chair really stops you from moving too much. And it's a really good way to learn this action. All right. Have a rest for a moment and have a look again. So the next stage, use whatever you've got around you to go here. So you can go a little bit lower if you feel confident in this Yustasana action. The legs are going to be a little bit apart. Let's get that in the right position. Rest the shins and then we go. So when we go, we've got to see that it's not about pushing forward. You think, oh right, I'm going to go back. You've got to see that you lean back a little bit and get broadness. This has got to happen, broadness. And then we can open, broadness again. Because what happens in these back bends is that we just think that they're vertical actions. But to get vertical, we've got to open the path. This lower back needs to be really, really broad and open. So have a go at that action. Lift up through the body. Understand the connection. You might even find that your elbows start to bend. If your elbows start to bend, you know that actually you're on the next stage. Okay, just have a break from that for a moment and have a look now. So, this time we're going to go without the chair, without the bolster. Those of you who feel you still need to have that support, then that's fine, no problem. I want you to have a look here. So when you come into this action, so you've got to press down and then see that you are getting that action. That's all that I'm worried about, is that breadth and broadness. And now I can go breadth and broadness. Got to see that this, it's almost like somebody's pulling you this way, but not your thighs. It's just your lower back that needs to have that space. And now I'm getting a bit stuck. So I've got to lift out of the pelvis and again, keep that action, keep that broadness and then catch. So you can see it's such a beautiful extension through the spine. Such a beautiful extension through the spine. So have a go at that, see if it's possible, see if it's in your body yet. So it might be a bit difficult if you've got a thin layer, if you've got a bit of carpet underneath you, it's much nicer. And if you've got a folded mat, it's much nicer. So go and see if you can get that connection, get that opening. Okay, and release in, release in. All right, so just releasing the back now. So we're going to come into Adho Mukha Svanasana now. Just have a look how we're going to go into this now. So we're coming from bent legs in this position. Now when you're here, you have to really load into your arms. When you tuck your toes under, you want to see that you spread your toes. But now you have to just imagine that your shins get that same cutting back action. So you've got to cut those shins back, and it may be difficult. If you usually hit the deck with the heels, it may be difficult because you want to take time to cut those shins back, not the knee like that. You've got to just see that those outer shins come cut back and that you get that broadness again in that lower back region. You've got to get that broadness again. So that area really does work very strongly. So come on then. So what I want you to appreciate here is there is a little bit of a change of the lower back. So kneel in, tucking your toes under, weight in your wrists, your forearms, tuck your toes under. Now do not straighten your legs straight away. Soften them if you're already up. Soften them, and now cut back with those outer shins. Cut back the outer shins very strongly. Cut back the outer shins. So when you cut back with those outer shins, what happens is that it stabilizes everything. Be there. Okay, get the legs to a straight action. Then you have to see, can you get that action of rotating that area? Rotate the area in. Rotate those outer hips inwardly. So they're not actually pushing back, they're going in, so you want that broadness of the back. So much is understood here. Now you've probably had enough of holding that pose. So come down and release for a moment. You can come into this action of opening the chest and rolling over. So be in this position. You can straighten your legs, of course. So just working the upper body in this way. Find the broadness in your back. So soft inhalation, exhalation. All right, so now start to come out of your pose. Well done. All right, you can see I've got the rolled mat here. You can use the rolled mat. If you haven't got a bolster, this is very useful. And we're just going to release the back. So you can use the bolster if you've got one. I quite like this rolled mat because it goes through the centre of right through the centre of the spine. So this is quite nice to use because it stops you over moving. You might need to move your head the same side as the knees. Whatever works well, get in that action. You've got to remember all the while that you're trying to release these muscles. And so you've got to let them go, surrender. Okay, so be in it. If you're using the rolled mat or you're using a bolster, just be in that action. Be in that action. So you're just going to let the body settle for a few moments. You might find that the body needs to settle for a little bit longer. If this is the case, then stay in the pose for a little bit longer. This is the beauty of these pre-recorded videos. Okay, so well done. Come up and release and go to the other side. So just turn your legs, turn your spine, get that turn in action nicely. Soft inhalation, soft exhalation. So just let the body completely release. Okay, now coming up. Well done.